are back. Happy New Year to everybody out there. It is Sunday, January the 8th, 2023. Elvis Presley's birthday today, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is episode 175 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, our first of 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! We are live! My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. He's Tony Michael in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're talking some Scream 6 tonight. Scream 6 is on the horizon. The teaser trailer was released a couple of weeks ago. A poster was released. There's been a couple of promotional posters. We are back. We're back. We are back. Scream 6. Tony, how are you? How were the holidays? 2023.
Happy New Year's to everybody.
Yes.
Hope everybody enjoyed their Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and did I get everything? Festivus. Whatever it is you set, winter solace.
Whatever it is you celebrate.
Whatever it is you do during December 25th to New Year's.
100%. If you just want to run naked through the streets, play, and
that's your holiday.
And that's your holiday, and you stop at
that's Frank's holiday.
That's fine.
That's Frank Riker's holiday.
You know what? It probably is.
He runs through the streets butt ass naked.
Yes.
While wearing just a Santa Claus hat, and he delivers gifts.
He does.
Frank is the nude. You've heard of Santa Claus. Frank is the nude Claus.
Frank Claus, coming to a theater near you.
Near you, yeah. Have you seen that movie, by the way? The one that got with Hopper?
I want to see it.
I want to see it too. Everyone tells me it's really freaking good.
I just recently watched Smile, and I've got to say that I was pleasantly surprised as far
really because it looks so cheesy,
dude. I'm telling you. Okay, so I think because I went in as we know, right, and this is just my opinion, I think you share a similar one. I know some of our viewers do as well, but I mean, in my opinion, most horror movies are not very good because they're
especially modern.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Because they're just
they rely on the sound design jump scare too much. Well,
there's just it depends on the subgenre. But anyway, At the end of the day, I saw the trailer for Smile. The marketing was great, of course. You put people in the stands at baseball games behind, home plate with the smiles, and great marketing from Paramount. It's Paramount, by the way, not Blumhouse. So I was like, okay. And then I saw that it came to streaming. I think I could rent it off of YouTube for like $5. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. I haven't seen it yet. I've seen Barbarian. I've seen X. I've seen Prey. I still got to see Pearl. But I was like, you know what? I want to see Smile. Let's see it. So I watched it. And I think I went in with the expectations like, it's going to be one of those movies. And I was pleasantly surprised as far as the kind of horror movie Smile is. And there's a dime of dozens, of those as well. But as far as the kind of movie Smile is, it's one of the better versions of that kind of horror movie.
Interesting.
I was like, you know what? There was some genuinely effective moments. There's jump scares, but they didn't feel corny or shoehorned in.
Not like do you remember Blair Witch, the 2016 one where it heavily relied on that sound design jump scare?
Yeah, and this has a few of them in there, and some are better than others, and maybe there's a couple of them that I might have taken out and tried to figure out a different creative way to scare the audience. But at the end of the day, I thought most of it was pretty effective. The lead actress, I forget her name now, but she's Kevin Bacon's daughter. And does she Does she ever look like her mother? I forget her name.
I forget his wife's name. She's an actress too.
Yeah, Kedgwick? Something like that.
Something like that.
And did she ever look like her?
That's right, because that's right, because I watch and it's available to rent for $5. So I'll have to, if you like it, then you and I tend to be eye to eye on a lot of shit. So I might rent that tonight or tomorrow.
I didn't think it was, amazing, like the best thing I've ever seen in my life. But I think it's because I went in with low expectations. I'm like, it's going to be one of these. I was actually like,
Kara Sedgwick. Thank you, Cody.
Kara Sedgwick. Kara Sedgwick. Thank you. Yeah. And here's the thing too. it's a first-time feature film director. It's based on a short film that he did a couple of years ago, and apparently that did very well. And
kind of like Lights Out, right?
Right. And this is his feature film debut. And I can tell you, I mean, if this was my feature film debut, I'd be pretty happy. I'd be like, I'm happy with that.
Well, if you're saying that, then I'm gonna rent this and watch it. So then I just the trailer just kind of threw me off a little bit. But now that you're saying it, because I don't really do podcasts, but the one that I do listen to, on the two of them I listen, which is basically 1 and 2, but is Michael Rosenbaum's Inside of You, and she was on that podcast, talking about this movie with him, and I didn't realize that was Kevin Bacon and Kara Sedgwick's daughter.
It is,
and she's been in a few other things too. I believe
she's great in it. She definitely, her performance and the believability of her performance, seeing the arc of her going from completely sane to maybe not so sane, is really good. I think she really sells it, and she really carries the film. But there's some genuine moments of eeriness and creepiness and really cool cinematography. And there's some moments where I not walked out of the theater, I saw it at home, but I walked away from the film going, you know what? That was not bad. That was pretty good. Like as far as mainstream, theatrically released Hollywood horror movies go, it was pretty good.
Speaking of great cinematography, what did I just watch here on Netflix? And I loved it because it was all shot. You could totally tell it was shot with natural lighting. It very much had a Revenant type feel. And God damn it, what's the name of this movie? It's the new movie with Christian Bale, and he plays like an inspector, and Edgar Allan Poe is like,
that's on Netflix. Yeah.
Yes.
I know the film you're talking about.
What the hell is the name of that movie?
Something
I literally
Pearl,
whatever. I just freaking watched it. Here it is. It's The Pale Blue Eye.
Pale, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, like, when I watched this movie, the story kind of dragged a little bit. I mean, Bale was Bale, obviously. He's phenomenal. But as a photographer and as someone who really appreciates the art of cinematography, man, like the lighting, like when you're watching it, it's winter. It feels like winter. You feel like you're a part of it. Like, it's like kind of like what we've talked about with The Exorcist, when the guy's running around the track, you can kind of feel that scene and the vibe of that scene. The same thing with this movie, just everything, the way it's lit. It's a period piece done in the 1800s. I'm fascinated with that time frame, anything. So I'll sit down and watch a movie.
I'll have to check it out. I've seen it.
It's real. Again, it drags a bit, but I think because from a technical side of it, that you would appreciate, and obviously your buddy Bruce there would appreciate the artistic and just certain shots and the way they were lighting it. Like, it just felt so authentic. But yeah, so if you haven't had a chance, what the hell was the movie? I just said it 2 seconds. The Pale Blue Eye. Yeah. Check it out on Netflix. It's really fucking good.
Very cool. Matthew Farisi sends in $1.99 and says, I loved The Menu. Ralph Fiennes killed it. Yeah, I've heard really good things about The Menu. It's something I definitely want to see. I hear it's kind of like a horror comedy kind of thing.
And I see everyone's on this Megan kick.
Megan, I haven't seen Megan yet.
It's another doll movie.
But apparently it's like a horror comedy as well. It's not like a horror movie. It's got some laughs and it's funny and whatever. And it racked up $30 million at the box office this past weekend, $45 million worldwide. So it's a bona fide hit because it only had a $12 million budget. But that's what Blumhouse does. That's their business plan, right? Make really low budget horror films and make a lot of money. They don't always succeed, but certainly Megan is an example of where they have. So good for them. I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but if a horror movie does well or at the box office, albeit maybe a horror comedy, because that's what I hear, it's good. It's good for the genre. It's good for movies. So that's good. But Scream 6.
Scream 6. Now I know you talked about the trailer. I didn't see your video, but I know
did.
you did a review, or the teaser, I should say.
Yeah, I talked about the teaser.
What did you think of it? Because I didn't watch your video, so I don't know what you think of it.
I really liked it. I mean, you know, and now again, I will say this because obviously we get new viewers and subs here all the time. As far as the Scream franchise goes, I'm not a huge fan of the franchise. I don't hate it or anything. I really like that first Scream movie. Yeah, so I like that first movie a lot. I think it's a really good example of what it was trying to be, that spoofy, self-aware, meta, you know, deconstruction of the, you know, kind of poking fun at itself and all that. I thought it was great. I don't dislike any of the sequels. Certainly Scream has, in my opinion, has never, even Scream 3. Scream, the franchise, thankfully has never had a Halloween 5 or a Halloween Resurrection. Yet. You know,
it's had some weaker ones, but not bad. Well, not terribly. Not oh my God, what the fuck did they just do?
It hasn't had any movie that's been catastrophically.
They haven't had a Halloween Ends.
No, right, or killed. No, but it's true, right? Like they haven't. Now, mind you, there's only 5 films in the franchise as well, so there's still time.
Right, there's still time to fuck it up, guys. Come on, you're falling behind.
There's still time, but I've thought all the sequels have just been okay. You know, it's just been more of kind of the same. Now they update it, like when you get to Scream 4, of course, you update it for a 2011 audience. And I get that because, you know, you want to poke fun at sort of where the horror, you know, genre is at that time and bring in new things that would obviously connect with, you know, a modern day audience. And they continue to do that with the 2022 Scream and will continue to do that with the Scream in 2023. And I get all that. Yeah. But so I just want to preface that by saying that I like Scream well enough. It's you know, it's a classic, but I've never been like a huge Scream franchise fan. But oh my goodness, I was totally unaware before doing Scream videos and shit on this channel how many diehard Scream fans there are. There are so many people that just love the Scream franchise. I mean, like, love it. Like, up there with Halloween. It's insane.
Yeah. It's absolutely insane. It's a fanatic fan base, just like Halloween.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. So, and hats off. I mean, you know, I think that's really cool. But as far as this teaser trailer goes for Scream 6, as far as the teaser goes for Scream 6, I'm looking at this not as a Scream fan. I'm looking at this as a teaser trailer for a movie. And I think it's a very good teaser trailer. I like the use of, you know, just sort of you have sort of these shots of the streets of New York or Montreal. And, you know, now mind you, they may have shot some B-roll that they may have.
New York, right. Yeah.
They may have, but I can tell you that New York subway train is actually, you know, set in Montreal. But nonetheless, it's really cool that I like sort of how you know, there wasn't a lot to it, right? And there didn't need to be. You just needed to, all the teaser trailer was doing was putting you in an environment where you've never been before in a Scream film. Right? And that's all it needed to do to set the stage. It didn't have one piece of dialogue. It didn't have anybody, you know, of our mains talking to each other. It didn't need to. All you needed to do was just you show the streets of New York and, you know, you set the stage and then you show, you know, the subway tunnel and then you have that, you know, boom, 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 boom. Everybody who's got, you know, a subway, you know, has got that. We have it here too. Right? You know what I mean? Yeah. And that gets, you know, it's like, oh, that subway transit tube, you know, that sound when the doors open and close and all that, you know, that's really cool. And it keeps doing it. It becomes part of the soundtrack. And, you know, you hear like, you know, you know, and you hear like, you know, the walla walla of the people on the train. Oh, and everybody's dressed in these costumes, which is really cool. So I'm assuming maybe it's Halloween time, right? You know, in and around that time, unless this is some sort of dream that we will come to find out later when we watch the movie, maybe the teaser, or maybe, you know, here's something too. And I would suspect that you cannot shoot a Scream movie in quote unquote New York and not have scenes take place in the subway. I mean, you've got to do that. But it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me, even though I think it's not the right thing to do. It wouldn't surprise me if what we saw in the teaser didn't end up actually being in the movie. It was just sort of it's like setting the stage of what you can kind of expect, but it's not actually a scene from the movie, if you know what I mean. Sometimes you see sort of studios will sometimes do that. They'll take sort of creative license to kind of set a scene or, you know, a stage but the actual scene itself, or it's part of a dream, or, you know, whatever the case is. But anyway, I digress. Really liked it. And I like that you could see Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers, and you could see fucking the girl from, not the actress, but the costume from Ready or Not, which of course is the director's previous movie before they did Scream 2022. And so that's kind of cool. All these people dress in these horror characters, which I thought was really fun.
That's what makes Scream great. It's so self-aware. And you can bring those characters into that world and they're still the characters. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. So, you know, and then of course, you know, the lights begin to flicker. And it's like, what's going on? And there's a couple of ghost faces in there. And it's like, what's going on? And then of course we have that moment where he pushes the girl up against the subway train door, and then it just, you know, cuts and Scream 6 or whatever. As far as teaser trailers go, it was perfect. That's all you needed, because you are really, what it's about is showing you that you are in a completely different setting. And the text that comes on the screen, right? In a city of millions, nobody can hear you scream, or nobody will hear you scream. That's what the text says. And obviously that's a play on Alien. In space, nobody can hear you scream. But what's great about it is the irony of the statement, right? In a city of millions, you would expect that somebody would hear you scream. But because this is New York, and New York has that, you know, that reputation of being sort of standoffish and selfish, and that's fucking New York. You know, we don't give a shit about anybody else. You know what I'm saying, right? You know, people could be fucking dying on the sidewalk and people are walking by like, that's New York. You know what I mean? And so the irony of that statement rings true in a massive metropolis like New York. I know it's not very a nice thing for, you know, I'm not painting every New Yorker like that. I'm just saying there's that stereotype, right? You see that stereotype in Hollywood films a lot, right? That New Yorkers just don't care about what's going on around them, or they're so busy getting from A to B, they don't fucking know what's going on. So yeah, in a city of millions, ironically, nobody will hear you scream. So the vulnerability of that, I think, is really cool. And you place them on a packed subway train, and it's like, how safe really are you? You know? And so I thought the teaser was really good. I thought, as far as teasers go, very impressed. What about you?
Yeah, you know, I'm opposite with you with the franchise. I love the franchise. I'm a big fan of the first one. That's in my top 5 horror films. You know, I'm not a fan of 2 and 3 like I am Scream 4 and Scream 5. Scream 4 is probably like my second favorite. And then Scream, the more recent Scream, and then probably 2 and then 3. I'm very excited for this, because it has a lot of potential to be an extremely good Scream movie, because we're breaking away from what we already know. Look, I love Neve Campbell. That's my Scream queen, man. That's my girl. But you know, how many times are you going to run the same, you know, story arc of Sydney saving the day, Sydney, you know, escaping, you know, and living, and et cetera, and so on and so forth. You know, we've seen it 4 times, you know, and then I would say by the 5th film, what they did so well is they made the transition, you know what I mean? By not having Neve in there as much. And I said this as you and I watched it the first time live on the channel. I was so intrigued by because of how well these new characters like Jenna Ortega and some of the other cast members, I was so into their characters that I forgot about the legacy characters. And I didn't need to see Dewey, or didn't need to see Gail, and didn't need to see Sydney. So I felt like the way they did that, they did a nice transition for us, so that now, I know Gail's going to be back. I know Hayden's, and Hayden Kirby, that's my girl. That's my second favorite character. I'm glad that she's coming back. Because I love how they wrote her character in Scream 4. That's one of the biggest things I love about Scream 4 is because the way they wrote her, she's a nerd like us. You know what I mean? She's like Randy, but it's the hot female version of Randy, who's all into horror movies and knows her horror movies and stuff like that. So I hope they still bring a little bit of that character arc to her in this movie. And honestly, same thing like I'm on the fence on like, do I want to see like what happened to Dewey in Scream 5 happen to Gail? Like, does Gail finally get it and meet her demise? I mean, I'll say this. I won't be disappointed if she does. I'll be like, all right, it was a nice run. Thank you, Courtney, for, 6 movies. I won't be surprised if she also lives. I'm hoping Kirby pulls through. I like to see her pull through. I like to see Jenna pull through. I'm hoping Jenna gets a bit more screen time in this, and that maybe it's more centered around her character, because she had a lot of screen time in the 5th film, but she was also in the hospital. She was bedridden, so like her character didn't have a lot to do. And now obviously with the she's gone into the stratosphere with her fame with the Wednesday movie.
We called it. I said we called it.
We totally called that. Like, I knew as soon as Wednesday was coming, I was like, this is it. This girl's going into fucking orbit. And she has, and I'm happy for her. Yeah. So
and she's obviously so young. She's only 20.
She is. And obviously that, with the success of Wednesday, that's going to obviously bring a lot of new fans maybe over to the Scream franchise, knowing that she's a part of this, that, people who may not have watched the Scream movies before, especially maybe some of the newer ones.
Yeah.
So I think I know, look, I know we're going to see it in the comment section because I've seen it online and I've had the endless debates about it. I understand Neve Campbell has been the face of this franchise for 20 plus years. I get it. I mean, I'm not arguing that, but there comes a point where you have to, you got to pump some new blood into it. Otherwise, you're just going to repeat the same shit. And I know there's fans out there that will go pay to see the same shit. They'll go see a Halloween movie of Michael doing the same shit, stalking Laurie and all that stuff. And Laurie gets him and saves the day at the end of the movie. I get it. There's people who are going to want to see that same story arc over and over and over again. So I'm excited that they're taking a risk by not having the face of the franchise back and going into a new direction. And I know we kid and we laugh about, Ghostface Takes Manhattan because, Friday the 13th tried this once back in the 80s with Jason and bringing him to Manhattan. But I think with Scream, where Scream's going to be successful with it, where Friday the 13th fell short with it, because really the only thing that was good about Friday the 13th's Manhattan is the poster looked cool. That's about really it. But this, I think it's good. I think you're going to feel, even though I know it was filmed up in your neck of the woods, you're going to feel like it's New York. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Whereas Friday didn't really, okay.
Well, and the vast majority, but the vast
Times Square and whatnot. You had some moments that were like, yeah, I feel, but I think like you said, like the subway scene and other elements, the atmosphere of this Scream movie is like, you're not going to I think New York's character, and when I say that, I'm talking about the city. Yep. I think is also you're going to feel its presence.
That's exactly it.
You didn't see that in the Friday the 13th movie. So I think this has a chance to do something by taking, by going in a new direction, breathing new life into a franchise that's honestly, I mean, let's be real. It's been stalled for a long time. And like you've said, beyond the first film, you really don't need sequels. Although, like I said, I really do enjoy Scream 4. I thought Wes did a great job with that one. I think that was his last film before he passed away, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it wasn't his last. He might have
close to.
Right? He might have had one more after that. He died in 2015, so there might have been one more after that.
Scream 4 was 2011.
Correct.
So it depends on if he had done anything.
But look, you're right with everything you're saying, and the thing with Friday Part 8 is that the vast majority of it took place on a boat, and really it was only the last 15 minutes that was in Manhattan. Do you know what I mean? And some of and really you only could tell it was in Manhattan from one or two scenes. Which really was the time Square thing. I think it's really interesting because to your point, and I wanted to piggyback off what you just said, which was that what's really fascinating about what they're doing with Scream now is, for all intents and purposes, Scream 5 was and I say for all intents and purposes because it's not exactly, but it's like a close cousin. For all intents and purposes, it's kind of that close cousin of that legacy sequel. And which is what Halloween 18 was, which is what you could kind of say, The Force Awakens was. And, we've seen things like this before where what tends to happen is that studios will deliver something. So there's been like a big gap, right? There's been a big gap between films. And now the thing that Scream has going for it is that but it's not like the Scream franchise before Scream 5 was in the toilet, like Halloween or Star Wars, or something like that, or now Elm Street or Friday, right? It wasn't like that. They just didn't make any more films. Wes had died, and what are we going to do? And all that kind of stuff. But the thing that's interesting is that what Scream 5 did is the same thing that The Force Awakens did. It's pretty much the same thing that Halloween 18 did. It's very similar, even though not exactly, but it'll make sense once I explain it. Kind of like what Rob Zombie was trying to do with Halloween 07, which is deliver something familiar to the audience to get everybody back on board. Now, again, Rob Zombie's Halloween 07 is a bit of a different thing, but
sure,
I'll come back to that in a moment. But is when your franchise is in the toilet, what are we going to do? Well, we can't just be avant-garde and do something completely different right out of the gate. So what we need to do is we need to earn the fans' trust. We need to get fans back on board. That's what they did with Ghostbusters Afterlife, right? They delivered something familiar. That's a legacy sequel, right? They deliver something familiar. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to like it, but you look at the commonalities between Ghostbusters Afterlife, The Force Awakens, Halloween 18, Scream 5. There's patterns here. So we deliver something familiar. We get fans back on board. We earn their trust because as much as Star Wars fans want to say that, the sequel trilogy, listen, shit didn't hit the fan until The Last Jedi. That's when shit hit the fan. There might have been people that didn't like The Force Awakens, but the vitriol wasn't there until The Last Jedi came around. Okay, it wasn't that long ago, folks. So they delivered something familiar. Not everybody liked it, but it felt like Star Wars again, right? This feels good. This is what it's supposed to feel like and be like. And then what you tend to see happen is now that they've got everybody back on board, franchises will then go, whoot, and they'll pivot and they'll shift focus, and now they'll start to deliver.
It's what Halloween did. Halloween 2018.
It's what Halloween did. It
started off good, and it took a bad pivot to a direction that I was like, where are we going?
So, and then now, if you go back to Rob Zombie's Halloween, again, it's not exactly the same thing that I'm saying because you've got the backstory and the trailer trash and all that kind of stuff. But when you look at the structure of Rob Zombie's, Halloween, and you look at the narrative in the story, it's very familiar, right? It's about a kid who kills his sister, who goes away, it's the same story. It's there's familiar story beats, right? Then look what happened with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Okay, now that I've done this, we're going to go over and do this. And so you've seen that. You saw that with The Last Jedi. You saw it with Rob Zombie's, Halloween 2. You kind of saw it with Halloween Kills. Are we going to see it with Ghostbusters, the next one, which they're going to be shooting soon? What's going to happen, right? So I look at Scream 5 and I think, here's this familiar Scream movie. Scream 5 was definitely a Scream movie. It didn't reinvent the genre. It didn't reinvent the Scream franchise. It was a Scream movie. They played it safe. And the biggest risk they took in that movie was killing off Dewey. Okay, great. I'm not saying that's not a big thing, but the beats, the feel, the vibe, it's a Scream movie. Now that they've got everybody back on board and they've got everybody's trust that, hey, we're not Wes Craven, right? Because that's what it was. It's not that the Scream franchise was in the shitter. It was that Wes Craven was dead. So they still needed to earn Scream fans' trust, not because the franchise was shit, but because Wes was not doing it. Nobody but Wes, you know these people, nobody but Wes, nobody but Wes, nobody but Robert Englund, nobody, you know, there's people that feel that way. So they thought, okay, we need to deliver something familiar and safe so we can show that we got this. We want to earn fans' trust. We got this. And that's what they did, while still, you know, introducing some new characters, right? Now that they've earned your trust, now they go, okay, you know what we want to do? Scream in New York. And it's like, this is either going to work or it's not. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, they're talented. I mean, Ready or Not was great. Scream 5 was definitely a Scream movie. I have no reason to believe that this isn't going to be, you know, good. But I'm very curious for all the reasons I stated here over the last few minutes. That's why I'm really curious to see what this Scream movie is going to be like. Is it going to be too different for Scream fans? Or is it going to be the right different for Scream fans?
I'm hoping for the right different. You know, like I said, I mean, like how many times are we going to repeat the same stuff? You know, like how many times do we need a story taking place in Woodsboro and whatnot? I mean, we've been there, we've seen it, you know, I mean, look, 2 branched off, you know, it was out, you know, it was in college. I don't know how far, you know, in relations to Woodsboro they were, but it wasn't in the town. 3 was somewhere in Los Angeles, I think. I can't remember. I haven't watched that one in a while. But 4 brought it back to Woodsboro. 5, same thing, Woodsboro again. And in fact, it brought it back to the house and everything. So it's like, it's going to go one or two ways. It's going to be an awesome idea that delivers and lands and everyone's happy with it, or it's going to be Jason Takes Manhattan all over again. And we're going to be like, well,
I would be very surprised. I agree with you, by the way. Oh, and by the way, if you're new to the show or new to the channel, we will get to your super chats, folks, but we'll do that at the Q&A part after we're done our little discussion here today. So feel free to send super chats in. We won't miss them. We'll just get to them at the end part. So, and thank you, by the way, to everybody that has already sent them in. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Right? Because you look at the pattern and that really does exist. When you're delivering a sequel, whether it's because of, you know, you need to earn, basically it's all about earning fans' trust. That's what it is, right? In the case of like Halloween or Star Wars, it was because they made bad movies. In the case of Scream, it was because Wes Craven was dead. But the principle's the same. They still need to earn the trust from the fans. Yep. And now they've done that because for the most part, I think Scream 5 was really well received. So now they go, okay, let's go over here. And it's like, what are they going to do? The teaser trailer was really good as far as a teaser goes, but that doesn't tell us anything about the story or the narrative or anything. It's just a cool teaser to let you know that it's in New York. And I thought it was great. But when it comes to story, I'm thinking that they have to do something because for the last 5 movies, it's always been a master and an apprentice. I mean, not actually, but you know, there's been 2 of them, right? 2 ghost faces. Maybe we need to change it up.
Always 2, no more, no less. Yeah,
maybe we need to change it up. Maybe there needs to be 3. I was pontificating and speculating on that video that I did after the teaser dropped about how maybe there's like a cult of some, like I'm thinking of New York, right? And I'm thinking, you know, what is the story going to be? Is it just going to be that, is it going to be something as simple as, okay, Jenna Ortega, I think her name is Tara in the movie, if I'm not mistaken. Tara and her sister and, you know, the remaining survivors, they move to New York because they got to get out of Woodsboro. We can't stay here. Let's go to New York. Maybe they go to college. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just working 9 to 5. I don't know. And they meet some new friends. And then is it that the new friends realize that, oh, these are the, you know, the most recent Woodsboro survivors, and somebody sick amongst them has a sick fascination with horror movies and decides to start it up in New York. I mean, is that all it's going to be? Just the same thing, but in New York? I'm not saying that can't work, but I'm saying, or, you know, I have a feeling these directors are smarter. I don't know if they've written the script as well. Maybe they have. I would like to think they're smarter than that. Rather than just doing the same thing, but in New York, let's take advantage of it. Like, there's so many people, there's so many different avenues and things that you could go down in terms of a compelling story. We know that Gail, if I'm not mistaken, I believe she works and lives in New York, correct? I think she does. And she was brought up to Woodsboro for part 5. Is that true?
You might be right. You may be right.
I think so. Maybe that's why they go to New York, is because of Gail. I don't know. I would be surprised if Gail makes it out. But what do you think the story is going to be? Like, do you have any ideas?
I won't be surprised
what you'd like to see?
Because it's in New York. I hope they do it because it's Scream and it's meta and they're the only ones who can get away with it. The way I would do it. Now, it's the way I would do it. I don't know how, but if Gail's in New York, the scene is, I don't know, they're going to get coffee and the Rembrandt song, I'll Be There For You, hits when they go into the coffee shop. Like it's playing as far as ambiance, background music, a little like nod to Friends, or whatever. I won't be shocked. I won't.
You know what? If they like don't do that, that'd be a missed opportunity. That'd be fun.
It would be huge. If there is no reference to Friends at all, with Courtney Cox being in the movie, and I will be disappointed because it's first of all, the only movie that can get away with doing it, and if you do it right, is Scream, because it's self-aware. It's again, it could be a combination of things. It could be them going into like a place called Central Perk or something. I don't know. I think that was the coffee shop.
That might be maybe.
That might be too on the nose.
Perk Central,
or something like that. Or they go into a coffee shop and you hear the Rembrandt song, I'll Be There For You, or something, something like that being played or whatever. No, I don't want to see any of the other cast members of Friends there,
No.
But a Friends reference, like if they don't, like, oh, that'd be such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. I could see them doing something cute like that. But I'm just curious on what is the overall story. I hope it's not just Scream, but in New York. Now, that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be good, because I guess what I mean by that, and let me sort of explain what I mean by that, because, it's basically what I just said. Like, but maybe that's not a bad idea. I mean, maybe, as I sit here and I think about it, maybe, you know what, maybe they want to sort of not just tear the Band-Aid off. Maybe they want to go, okay, we're going to set it in New York. We're going to have all these amazing, the subway and Central Park and Times Square and alleyways and fucking fire escapes and, brownstone, homes. And like, there's so many. New York is such a big playground. There's so many things you could do with it that maybe they feel, you know what? Why don't we deliver a familiar Scream movie, in the sense of that it is just really, the gang moves to New York, Gail's there, and it's just two killers again who have a fascination with horror movies, and it's just two new people that befriended them in New York, and then shit hits the fan. But maybe that's okay, even though it's kind of the same thing, but maybe that's okay because you have so many because it's a different location, right? It's a different environment, and you got so many different sets and so many opportunities for cool things for Ghostface to do and, emerge from, and, all these set pieces and rain, and, you could have rain, anywhere, but I just mean like, alleyways with rain, and, New York alleyways, like Ninja Turtle alleyways shit, whatever, right? And maybe they think they'll just do that rather than tear the.
You know what? I was just thinking. You know what they could have you seen the television show Friends?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I don't watch on a regular basis, but I absolutely know what you're talking about.
The other thing they could do is.
Are you going back to the Friends thing?
Well, because I was just thinking what else they could do with Courtney Cox is they could. Depending on the scene and the dialogue, like maybe she's at the station or whatever, maybe she's up for an award or whatever, she's super excited, and she can pull out a Monica I know, because you know how Monica would like take it up an octave or something when she'd be like, I
I don't know the show that. I mean, I know the show, but I haven't watched the show that much to know that. But
yeah, that was kind of her trademark as Monica on the show. So like, obviously, hardcore Friends fan would get the reference. So like,
and that's all it needs to be. Not everybody needs to get it.
Right. If you didn't want to go too on the nose and play the song, if you had her drop a line that's something that Monica would say, that people who know the show Friends might, then that would be the Easter egg.
Right, right, exactly. And you see, Easter eggs are Easter eggs because they're only, they're there not for everybody to understand. They're there for those who will understand. Right. That's the point of an Easter egg, right? You know what I mean? So, Easter eggs, like, filmmakers don't worry about whether or not everybody's going to get the reference. No, not everybody will get the reference, but those who, but people who get it. If you know, it's that kind of thing, right?
That's kind of why I'm thinking that might be better to do, because that actually, because if you know, and you know the character Monica, you know that's her thing, and if Courtney does that in the movie, and it has to work though, it can't be like a forced I know, it has to like fit the scene to where Gail would say it like that. So but Friends fans are going to be like,
see, there you go,
and those are more, and I agree with you, those are more fun Easter eggs in movies rather than where it's like too on the nose.
Right.
If someone came up to her and did like a Joey, how you doing? You know what I mean? That's too on the nose. It's
actually him.
Right, or it's Matt LeBlanc, right?
That's right. It's him.
Hey, Gail, how you doing?
Yeah. That'd be like, whoa.
You're on the nose.
So what do you think of story? I mean, do you think it is going to be just a familiar Scream movie set in New York, which maybe they want to do, like maybe they don't want to tear the Band-Aid all the way off. Maybe they don't want to make it too different right away. Maybe they feel that setting in New York is different enough. Let's deliver a familiar Scream story in terms of, like I said, it's just two people again, obsessed with horror movies, but now you're just doing it in New York? Or do you feel that they're going to change it? I'm hoping they actually change it up a bit, that it's not just set in New York.
Well, that's one of the things that I really like about Scream 4 is Scream 4, yes, you have a little bit of that obsessed horror, or whatever, because you had Kirby in there being the horror fan, and what's his name? Rory Culkin.
Yeah.
As well too. So you had a little bit of that because he played the number 2 in that. But really, the heart of that story was about jealousy and envy, and Sydney's cousin wanting to be like Sydney, wanting the fame, wanting the popularity. So you still had a little bit of that, original idea of what the character of Ghostface were about, being obsessed horror fans. But that one was the first time where Wes, he brought an element of like, that makes a lot of sense, because you do have that type of jealousy and envy, whether it's a family relative or even just an obsessed fan, right? Who just becomes so obsessed with an individual that they try to take that individual's the history of what happened to Sydney and duplicate it, which is what Scream 4 did. With this, Scream 5, it was a safe return to what we know. Yeah. It was familiar, we knew it, but I think because they had introduced the new characters and the characters were so well written, and the legacy characters were written around these new characters, that's what I think would make Scream 5 so well was done so well, and that's what I personally liked about it. With Scream 6, yeah, it's like, do you recycle the same shit that we know, or do you just, is there a group dude who's just batshit fucking crazy?
See, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, do they feel that we don't want to make
do
Scream
not
fans...
make it Billy's daughter, for the love of God? No, you do.
But I'm just wondering if they think New York is different enough. Let's ease the fans into this. Or like, if it were me, I'd be like, hey, listen, we're in New York. We got this entire sandbox to play in with all these cool locations, and ideas. Instead of it just being two killers again and it's two teenagers, I mean, or to, 20 somethings or, whatever, maybe there's
do you know what, honestly,
maybe there's a cult. Maybe there's a cult of ghost faces that we don't know about.
If I would do that, but you know what I would do is something that the franchise hasn't done yet. The killer lives to come back for another one. You haven't done that yet. Now, unless they bring back Stu from the first movie, which I've heard rumors on, all the killers have died. You've never had a killer actually survive to carry on to a sequel.
Right.
That I would like to see, that would be an interesting fresh take to do with the Ghostface character, is that the actual person who played Ghostface and is Ghostface is still alive. And you cut the movie at the end there, leaving the audience going, oh, fuck. Right. Damn.
Right. Now, you see, Static in the chat says Black Christmas 2019 vibes. Well, again, right, we got it. There's nuance to when I say a cult. I mean, I don't mean a cult that hates men. Okay. Oh, yeah, I mean, just like a group of people that are obsessed with horror movies. Instead of it just being 2 people, what if it's 5 people, right? You know what I mean? And they meet up. And so I say cult loosely. I don't mean that they're actually like a cult and they're into black magic and witchcraft and that kind of stuff. I don't mean like literally a cult. I just mean that instead of it just being 2 people, there's 7 people, there's 5 people, there's a group that we don't know about. That's kind of like a cult, and they're so obsessed and maybe they, there is sort of a natural leader amongst them or, whatever. Again, it's all in the execution. It might be interesting. In a city of millions, why settle on 2? Like I sit there and I think, now I'm not saying that that's what they're going to do, but I'm just saying these are ideas that if I was in the writer's room, I'd be, throwing these things at the, not throwing, but, putting these things on the whiteboard and, and just kind of, okay, we'll do that. Okay, what about that? Or what about this? Does it have to be the same thing again? It's 2 obsessed people, or does it have to be personal? Do they have to be connected to the family? Or can it be random? Or can it be somebody that lives in New York that got wind of the Woodsboro murders and just became obsessed, with it or some, I don't know. I'm very curious on what they're going to do. And here's something that's interesting. We know that what's her face, and I forget her name now, but really our main person here is not Jenna Ortega. It's the other girl who's Billy's daughter.
Yeah, I forget the character's name.
I forget her name. Yeah. But hang on a sec. Hang on a sec here. The chat room will let me know. You have to excuse my scream ignorance. Was Jenna Ortega and the other girl, were they actual biological sisters?
In the film?
Yeah, I don't think they were. Were they? Or were they like half sisters or something? Because if they were biological full sisters, then that would make Billy her daughter, or, her father as well. But no, they can't be. They can't be. Are they? No, I don't think they are. Samantha, they're half sisters? Are they best friends or half sisters?
Maybe half sisters. Who
half
knows?
sisters? The scream heads in the chat room will let us know.
I don't know enough about the characters, like that.
Same.
Where I can,
they're
especially on the new movie. I've only watched the new movie once. Okay. So.
All right, half sisters. Okay, so here's the thing. So now Jenna Ortega has become quite the little scream queen horror star at the moment.
Yeah. And,
she's got X under her belt. She was even in 666, which didn't do very well at all. She's, of course, Wednesday is a bona fide hit. It's not like, hardcore horror or anything like that, but it's horror-esque. And, so she's becoming this real big star. Something that I knew she was going to when I saw Scream.
Well, we said it last year. You and I were saying that last year, like this girl's going to be a star. And huge. And
that was just based on what she did in Scream 5. There's something about her. Anyway, so... But she wasn't the clear sort of central focus, our main protagonist, where the narrative, sort of, is all about. Of course, you can change this from film to film, of course, is Samantha. She's Billy's daughter. And Billy was a big part of that, obviously, in visions that she had. Well, here you have Jenna Ortega, who's this rockin' star. Are you going to kill her off? Are you going to kill her off?
I think this is eventually going to lead to her probably starring in this trilogy. I think she'll probably be the star.
You really think so? So you think they're going to kill off Samantha?
Yeah, yeah. I think at this point right now, because of
hot take.
I think there might have been they have been open about filming multiple scenes, doing different things, and all this stuff like that. I think because they know, and I'm sure they're probably. I'm sure. I would love to know pre-Wednesday, how much was Jenna Ortega's character in this movie? Post-Wednesday, to get people in the seats so that, they get more Jenna Ortega screen time, and because her fan base is just, it's blowing up, and I'm happy for the girl. I wish the girl all the best in her career and endeavors and the future shit that she's going to do, because I think she's going to do awesome shit. I'm wondering how much did they go back and go, we need to add a little more Jenna. Studio's probably saying the same shit. We need to add a little more Jenna. And if they did kill her off, they probably are like, nope, we're going to have this girl survive. And probably she's going to be the face of, she'll be the conclusion of this new, because it's obvious they're going to be setting this up for a trilogy.
I would say that the likelihood.
And then she's the star of the seventh one. That's basically what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I would say the likelihood, because it was shot a while, I would say the likelihood of them going back and just shooting scenes to bring her back is highly unlikely. I think the story's probably set. I don't think she dies in the movie. I don't think she does.
Sorry.
But I
just read something in the comments section that
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's what we were talking about before the show. It's like too much screen talk. When was the last time we talked about a screen movie?
Too much screen talk.
Like, good Lord,
too much
man.
Screen talk.
Dude, talk about fucking Halloween again for the 9 billionth goddamn time.
Yes, they do. They do.
Jesus.
But here's the thing. So I think whatever happens to Jenna Ortega's character in Scream 5, I think happens. But I don't think she dies in that movie.
Yeah.
I don't think she dies in 5. I think, I don't think Samantha does either. But obviously, a couple of the others will. I think. And I think Gail will. I think Gail's going to die.
I see happening. I think it's the end for Gail Weathers, and
But again, it's not that legacy characters die. Like I always say, it's how they die. I mean, look, does it serve the story? Does it make you feel something? And so it should, right? And it's all about serving the story. Maybe she sacrifices herself to say, whatever the case is. I think that's important. And they are clearly shifting focus now, away from the legacy characters, which you need to do. If you want to prolong this with any sort of longevity, you have to do that. But good stories told well with good characters listen, everybody was like, oh, yeah, Neve Campbell better not die in Scream 6. She was or 5. She was hardly in 5. And now everybody is so in love with Samantha and, Tara. Nobody cares. I mean, not nobody cares, but you know what I mean? Like now everybody's like Jenna Ortega this and Jenna Ortega that, and can't wait to see Scream 6 because of Jenna Ortega. It's like, see, that's what I'm talking about, right? You cast well, you write good characters with good stories. And Sydney is still out there. She's still out there, and I have no doubt
she's still out there. She could return for the 7th,
Maybe she will, but I also think she doesn't need to return in anymore.
She really doesn't. She's given us 5 movies, or 4 plus her cameos basically in the 5th film. Well, that's all. And it really was.
I think that see, there's a line at the end of Scream 5, and you mentioned this on a stream months ago. Maybe it was it was months ago, when there's a line that Neve Campbell says at the end of the movie. And I believe she says it to Tara, and not Tara, to Samantha. And Samantha says, I'm paraphrasing, but, she's like, am I going to be okay? Or, or is this all going to be okay? Or, whatever. And all she says, it may even be Neve Campbell's last line in the film. I'm not sure. She may have a line or two after that. But she says, she pauses and she goes, you will be. And that right there, you will be. That is a final girl. That is the legend Sidney Prescott telling telling the apprentice, telling, the student, you will be. Because she has the experience. I've been through hell. I've been through it. I know what you're feeling right now. I know just that line alone is really, I know we always want, we hope our legacy characters ride off into, into the sunset in some sort of grandiose way. But really, that simple line says it all. That right there was the passing of the torch. That line right there was the handing off. You will be. You've got this. You can do this. You can do it. You've got this. That's what that said. That's what that line was all about. That's what it communicated. That was, it was great. We don't need to see Nev ever again. Like, in terms of story, she wound up at Stu's house. It was actually a set, not the same house, of course, but she wound up at Stu's house. So it came full circle. She saved the girls, she was doing her thing. And, there she is sitting on the ambulance, or not on the ambulance, but, on the side, or like whatever. And it's all over. And she saved, or she helped to save Billy's daughter, and the whole thing there. And am I going to be okay? You will be. You will be. It's a great send off. It's a great
they're saying she says eventually.
Oh, eventually? Okay. Eventually. Well, still, it's the same thing, right?
Same meaning.
It's the same meaning. Eventually, you will be eventually, right? It's a semantics now, but that's true, right? Eventually, right? So that right there, eventually, right? That right there is that passing of the torch. She is basically saying, you will be, right? Eventually, yes, you will be okay. And that line is all you need. We don't need to see Sydney again. I know fans love her, and she is the Jamie Lee Curtis of the franchise, and she is one of the great final girls in horror history, and I get the emotional, nostalgic attachment to the character. I get that. But do we need the character to continue on? Do we? Let's think about this realistically. What is her purpose, right? That's why when screen, like, does she feel an allegiance? Does Sidney Prescott feel an allegiance to fight Ghostface? And because remember, it's not one single Ghostface, it's a different Ghostface every movie. So it's not like it's one single person that has been terrorizing, and now it's sort of like this, no, I need to defeat this villain because it's the same villain I've been fighting since the get-go. It's not the same person. It's been different people every movie. So what is her attachment to, why would she come back? It's not her daughter, right? It's not her friends. Unless she comes back for Gale. Like, that's why I thought with Scream 5, and actually I think we both speculated on this before the film came out, that maybe because we were actually talking about this exact thing. What brings Sydney back, right? There has to be something that brings her back. And we thought maybe the film opens with Dewey's death, right? And that's what would bring Sydney back, because now it's personal. So you could say, well, maybe she comes back because Gale died. Whatever. Okay. Yeah, maybe. But we're running very thin on those reasons. And I just think because you have to really sell it and justify why she keeps showing up, and I think now, eventually, that's it. That's the passing. You've got it now, girl. Eventually. And so I think she will be back because, it brings in dollars. But from a story perspective, I don't think we need her. Now she is your favorite final girl of all time. So I'll let you speak to that. Do you feel the same way? Do you see it kind of the same way? Or are you kind of...
if she doesn't come back, I'm fine. I've said that. I'm good. I've got plenty of Scream movies with her in it. I think... like I said, you need to breathe new life into a franchise. You need to put some new faces in there. I don't need to say the same shit. She's in 4 films. She had a small part in the last one. The transition was nicely done. Now we're on to something new. And I'm curious to see what they do in Scream 6. I agree with you. I do think Gale is probably on her way out. I don't think... I'll be disappointed if Kirby dies in this one, because I think it'll be too on the nose. It's like, okay, you resurrected a character that we thought was dead just to bring her back and kill her. Now, if she dies in the 7th one, then that's fine. But I would feel like that's almost a waste of a character, you know, just to bring her back for one film, just to kill her off again. It's like, because to us, I mean, yes, was her death was questionable. We always wondered because you never really saw it come to a conclusion. I believe she was stabbed in the stomach, and then that's it. But I don't think you ever actually saw her not breathing. I have to watch Scream 4 again. It's been a minute.
Maybe that's a rewatch.
And there's always been that'd be a cool rewatch.
Yeah.
It's always been, you know, there's been theories out there about Kirby still being alive, because we don't actually see the final moments of her death in Scream 4. So but having said that, for the most part, fans thought she had died off. So you bring her back just to kill her off again. I'm like, it's wasting the character. Now, if you bring her back for, of
course, they did that with Halloween Kills.
I know, right? I mean, they really did. I mean, fucking
Marion Chambers, you want to come back? Yes.
Just to die again, dead again. The only character in Halloween franchise to be killed twice by Michael Myers, playing the same character by the same actress
in 2 different timelines.
Yep. That franchise.
Anyway,
that franchise is.
But do you feel But do you feel that like I think you're okay with it too because of that moment?
I'm so good with Sydney being.
It's such a great line.
It's done.
It's such a great line. Am I going to be okay eventually? You know, it's such a great moment for Sidney Prescott's character to now. Right to go be a mom, right? She has at least a child that's young enough to be in a stroller. Now she can go be a mom. She can live her life. What allegiance does she have to keep fighting? Go, honey, I gotta go. I saw the Sidney Prescott sign, you know, in the sky. Where are you going? I have to head to New York because these kids need me. What kids? Just random kids. You know, it's like there's for me. And I'm not saying it can't be justified. I'm not saying that. Gail, at this moment, maybe she needs Sydney. But if we're going to bring Nev back, if we're going to bring Sydney back, I should say, it better be a damn good reason why she's, you know.
That's why I kind of like, I like the idea. I don't know if in the writer's room they thought about this, if anyone brought it, because like I said, no killer in a Scream movie has survived to see a sequel.
I kind of like that.
It would be cool because think about it, the payoff. Like, you know, this is heading to a trilogy. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a 7th film coming, and we know who's the star of that. It's going to be Jenna Ortega, hands down. I mean, I know that.
So you really think so?
I'm thinking like
calling it here first, ladies and gentlemen,
because her popularity.
I know.
It's so huge, and with the fact that Netflix has just announced another Wednesday, so you know they may time it to, you know, because you know if they're going to do another Wednesday, this ain't going to be like Stranger Things where they're going to let a lot of time pass. Burton and all, they're going to jump on that shit right away, and we'll probably have another Wednesday, if not this year, probably next year.
Jenna Ortega is going to be 75 in season 3 of Wednesday. I'm just saying. right. But the point is that because her fame is just going into outer space now. Yeah, she's popular.
Big time. And I could see it to where they set this up where maybe the killer survives. It gives motive. Maybe it's Jenna's character that disables the killer but doesn't totally kill the killer, which gives the killer vengeance to come back for another for another final whatever movie with, you know, between Jenna and the killer, if the killer survives, because you need a good motive for the killer. It would be a good idea because it's never been done. We've never seen that in a Scream movie where the killer actually survives. And you're setting it up for this maybe final showdown between the killer and Jenna Ortega's character in the 7th film. That would be a fresh idea to do, because I can see that. I can see that's, and even if they didn't, even if the killer dies, I still see it that the 7th film is going to be Jenna's movie. Right. It'd be a huge missed opportunity if they didn't, because you need a face. You need a face to put people in the seats, and right now, that girl's doing it because she's a hot commodity.
You can do it, and there's an out for Samantha's character, and that out is that she kind of looked like she had some murder tendencies.
kill the girl off.
No, I am. I'm saying that like I'm, to your point. So we have Samantha, but Samantha's the daughter of Billy Loomis, and she's having fucking delusions and seeing her father talking to her, and she might have some murderous tendencies. Do you know what I mean? True. So maybe one of the ghost faces ends up being her. Do you know what I'm saying? Or maybe Tara, Jenna Ortega, has to kill her own sister, and her half sister, and she doesn't want to do it, but she's got to do it because she's being. It's like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, fans might see that coming, but definitely, you absolutely have set up, in my mind anyway, that the character of Samantha could, you don't have to go anywhere with it. You could never address it and it would be like, okay, that's fine. But you definitely have clearly communicated that this girl may have a little bit of Billy Loomis in her. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So maybe she is going to die, and she's going to die because she turns on her friends. I don't know. What do you think of this? And I've talked about this before on the channel. Maybe we have too. I can't remember. And I know that viewers watching this at first might at face value go, oh, no, you can't do that. But just let it marinate for, a bit. What if there actually is a real ghost face pulling the strings? There actually is somebody. There's
almost like a Saw type of thing, someone pulling the strings,
kind of like that. But again, we can use a lot of analogies that make it seem kind of corny, but I mean, like, because obviously Roger Jackson, who's the voice of Ghostface, mm-hmm. He's that voice, and he's been the one constant through everything, and he's that voice in every movie, and he's great. He does a great job, and I understand that it's justified and we do see Stu and the other characters hold up the voice changer and go, hello, and it kind of sounds like Roger Jackson. I get that it's been justified that no, they're the ones on the phone, but are they though? Come on, these are movies. We can find a way to, what if and I'm not suggesting it's actually Roger Jackson, but what if there actually is somebody that makes those calls? It was never Stu on the phone. It wasn't, whoever, or the other, Billy's mom, or, whoever. It wasn't actually them on the phone. They are, and I know at face value, maybe like, what are you talking about? So they're doing like his bidding or something, or I don't know how to work it in, but I just think that might be interesting, that there actually is a real ghost face. And maybe that's what draws Sydney out. Maybe she realizes, holy shit, there actually is somebody, that person that I've been talking to, that person that Drew Barrymore talked to on the phone at the beginning wasn't Stu and wasn't Billy. It was somebody maybe in New York. I don't know. Like, I'm spitballing. I'm throwing ideas out there. The problem is with that
is, see, one, it's Billy's revenge because of Billy being upset that Sydney's mom caused the divorce within his family. Yep. 2 is Billy Loomis's mother seeking revenge for the death of her son. 3, they introduced the brother, which that storyline that should never have fucking happened, because Sydney's mom had another baby, in Hollywood when she was acting and stuff like that. 4, the reason why I like 4 so much is because it's within the family, but it's a cousin being obsessed because she wants to become Sydney and have the life and the popularity that, mm-hmm. Which really touched on at the time when it came out in 2011, because we were still very in the infancy of social media. Yep. And people becoming popular on social media, and that people losing their own identity because they wanted to be like this person they saw on social
Correct,
media.
Yep.
That Wes hit a really good, that's what I really love about that movie, because Wes and Kevin, I think, wrote the script, right? Or no?
Which one?
Did Kevin work with Wes on Scream 4?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
So he did the first 3 with him then?
Yes, but he may have had a hand in 4, or he may have got a credit because it's based on characters he wrote.
He wrote,
but I'm not sure.
But anyways, the story of that really touched
Scream heads will know.
Yeah, with me, And that's what I like about it. And Scream 5 was, it did a Halloween 2018. It did a safe return to home.
Yeah. Force Awakens.
Yeah, exactly. Halloween 2018, Force Awakens. It would just it would
like, is there a way that I get what you said?
It would be hard to, because the storylines, it's like, well, Billy had motive, for the first movie. We knew his motive.
Oh yeah.
We knew Billy's mom's motive. Okay. Like it or not, the brother Roman in 3, he had motive. It made sense.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
that's what I thought. Kevin wrote 1, 2, and 4. Thanks, Dirk.
Okay, so you wrote 4. Okay.
Dirk Diggler.
Dirk Diggler, ladies and gentlemen. You got to rely on Diggler.
That's what I thought. Kevin had wrote 4.
There you go.
In that. So, anyways,
I'm not the person to ask about those details of Scream.
I think it would be hard that someone's pulling the strings, because, I mean, you could yes, that there was a person doing this,
like all those things,
and maybe feeding thoughts to Billy and like saying, hey, because this person has this, these tendencies to want to kill, but doesn't want to do it. He sees this thing that happens to Billy and his family.
Correct.
So he plants the seed in Billy to go on these killing sprees and all this stuff. I mean, you could do that.
Right.
I think we're getting into it would be, I don't know. It would be very tough to deliver that. And I don't know how especially the Scream heads, like you said, I don't know how they would feel about that.
I'm just trying to figure out, but you see what I'm doing though, right? I'm trying to figure out a way to introduce something. And I'm not saying that is, the answer, but I'm trying to figure out ways to push the narrative forward, keep the DNA of the Scream franchise there, but introduce something that makes you see everything from a bit of a different perspective. Oh, wait a minute. But it all makes sense. It connects to everything that's come before, but it's not just two teenagers again obsessed with horror movies, because I just think that can only, I mean, listen, this is famous last words, Halloween 13, everybody. It's just, how long can we go on, right? There's got to be something. There's got to be an angle, whether it's a cult or a group or an actual ghost face guy that is the guy pulling the strings, or I don't know. There's got to be something that goes beyond, and it doesn't have to be, a huge risk. It could be something really small, but something that goes beyond just they move to New York, they meet new friends, and 2 of their new friends ends up being 2 ghost faces. It's like, I don't know.
You got to tread that line carefully by doing that, because the one thing that Scream and Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th have successfully done, regardless if you don't like the sequels to Elm Street and the corniness that becomes Friday the 13th as that series progresses, and Scream as the Scream. Actually, I can't put Scream in the same category, because there's been some really good storytelling, like with the 4th one and the first one, the 4th one, and even this new one. The continuities of those franchises are intact. They're not too far out there where fans are like, what the fuck? Whereas like the Halloween franchise is all over the fucking map, and it's just one disaster fucking shit show. I mean, that's really the truth. And we could safely, like Scream or not, at least Scream didn't do that with their franchise like Halloween has.
No, it's true. Look, I mean, there's only been 5 of them, but that is true. It is far more consistent, and they are better films. They are better made films. They are better stories than any of the.
I will say this: the sequels to Screams are a lot better than anything.
Many of the sequels to the other big 3 film,
right?
Big 3. Yes,
yeah,
I totally agree. Although there's always a little room for ooh baby, ooh baby.
Look, yes, I was about to say there's always room at the dinner table for some Roy Burns. You can never ever. Roy Burns is now sitting at the big boy table. He's not at the kids table anymore. There's always room for some Roy. But you're right. I mean, when you look at the Elm Street sequels, and you look at the Halloween sequels, and you look at the Friday sequels, there's very little of them that I'll go back to, and you'll go back to, and many others, and rewatch, because they're just fucking disaster. They're shitty films.
It's true.
At least with Scream, they're written well. and three out of the five, in my opinion. And I know there's Scream 2 fans, and I like Scream 2. It's a more of a mood for me to watch that movie. Scream 3 is a sentimental thing because I took Chrissy to see that when we were dating as teenagers. It came out around Valentine's Day in February. So that's the only thing I like about that movie. Other than that movie fucking sucks. And I never watch it. Never fucking watch Scream 3. But I know there's fans, people do like Scream 2. I've talked to many fans. So within this franchise, you've got enough of a fan base that likes a lot of the sequels, and they're not shitbagging on it like you and I have with Halloween or Friday or Nightmare.
And let's think about this. As much as we've been speculating and or at least pontificating and all the other words you could use to talk about us noodling ideas in our brain about where Scream should go, or maybe what Scream 6 should be, or all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, these are whodunit movies, and they may have more longevity than the average horror series because you are actually not following one killer. And you are actually following, each movie is its own separate story, as opposed to following Freddy over the course of, 6 or 7 films, or Michael Myers, or whatever the case is. I mean, in the Scream movies, there's new characters every movie. It's the same Ghostface, sure, in terms of the costume, but and they do connect. Like when you get to 3, they do connect. But hang on, I just want to finish and say that maybe the whodunit aspect of the Scream franchise is actually prolonging it beyond that is the reason for its longevity is because people like a good whodunit.
Yeah, and I will give the guys credit where credit is due, Kevin. And the writers. I don't know who wrote Scream 3, and the guys who did Ready or Not for Scream, the new Scream. They've tried to at least reinvent it with fresh ideas, like bringing in Billy's mom for the sequel, Scream 2, or Roman for Scream 3, or Sydney's cousin in Scream 4, or what we got in Scream 5 here. Even though it's recycling. Like you said, they brought in new characters. They've tried to approach it from a different way. Obviously, it's Billy and Stu always are going to be the goats. They're the goats of this franchise. They were the first ones. And that movie at a time when horror films were just at a weird place in the 90s, this movie comes along and just, Wes just fucking does what Wes does best. He knocks it out of the park and gives us a fucking great movie that I can't remember how many times I saw Scream in theaters when it first came out. So at least, I can say that, with regards to the sequels, that they did do their best to try to reinvent the idea, whether you like it or not. And like you said, they stayed consistent within the continuity as well too. So
yeah. And that's a fair point as well. I mean, maybe having, one big mighty guy, behind it all, maybe it wouldn't work. Maybe it would work. I have no idea. Maybe
it's Sydney.
I was just going to say that. Maybe it's Sydney. Imagine, but then you'd be like,
Sydney finally flips the fuck out.
Hearts of Scream fans.
Hearts would be broken.
Oh my God. People would be like, what's that gif or that meme of that? I feel sorry for that person. She's all over the place. It was during Donald Trump's inauguration, that meme of that girl going, whatever it was. That would be Scream fans. All over. If it all of a sudden she takes off, or what you do to really pull on the strings of the hearts of Scream fans is what you do is that. Now again, I don't think Sydney is not in 6, of course, we know that. But can you imagine if she was? And I know there's fans out there that still think, no, there could be no, she's not in it. But imagine if she was, or maybe they're going to do like an 8th film, or something like that. Who knows? But imagine if they wrote a story, and at the end of the 6th film, or at the end of the 7th film, the mask comes. And to your point, right? Like we've never had a movie that's ended where the killer's won, or it's ended on like a cliffhanger or something that that leads into the next film. Imagine. Like each installment of Scream wraps up, nicely, right? Well, imagine if like at the end of 6 or 7 or whatever, the mask comes off and it's fucking Sidney Prescott. And it's like, what the fuck? And all she says is like, hello, Sam. You know, or something like that, like in some weird way. And then it cuts to black, the credits roll. People are like, what the fuck? But in reality, no. She's not bad. She's not actually a killer. She had to do, because we haven't seen the rest of the story yet, right? But in that moment, it makes it look like she's bad and kind of looks like she's a killer just to get everybody going, ah! But then the payoff by going to see Scream 7 and realizing, or Scream 8, I get it now. Oh, it was all part of the thing. It's all part of the game she had to play to infiltrate this and get this and help all the, I totally get it. That might be kind of cool. Or you scrap that and you just fucking make her bad.
Or you just don't even reveal who Ghostface is in this movie and you leave it open to debate, and the Ghostface, like I said, Ghostface comes back for the first time ever in a sequel, you know, and we don't know who the killer is.
Yes, you don't know. Yep. You don't know. Now, what are your thoughts?
Like the picture I shared today, what did it say? Forget the rules, right?
Right.
Forget the rules.
Yeah.
So if you forget the rules, maybe we don't know who Ghostface is. I know that's the whole part of it, and that's the fun of it, but you leave it open.
Well, I'm just saying,
let people debate it.
Right. You could do that, or you could have it's, oh my God, it's Sydney, whatever. Again, it's just to do something to leave. That's what you want to do, right? You want to leave the audience going, how does that? I mean, it's what we did with, Billy, right? Where it's just like, grandma, and then people, I can't tell you how many people, what? How did that doesn't make, what? And it's like, well, you want to see more? Yeah, okay, well, we're going to say how to, and it's that kind of thing. I'm not saying it would work. There's always going to be fans who go, oh, that's dumb. Oh, fuck that, that's crap. That's always going to happen. But good stories, if it's a great story and a great cliffhanger, no matter what you do, whether it's revealed to be, Gail, or it's revealed to be, Sydney, or you don't reveal it, like, you said, and it's just like, oh my God, great cliffhangers, if the movie is great and it doesn't feel shoehorned in, it feels earned, and there's that moment where you go, oh shit, no way, and then it cuts to black and rolls credits, you're always going to get people going, but the vast majority of people, at least I would, because I'm like this, would be like, oh, fuck, no way, I gotta wait. That was so good. What the fuck does that mean? How does it connect? Shit, you know what I mean? That's some good shit. I'm not saying it has to be that exactly, but to your point about unfinished cliffhanger, whatever that cliffhanger is, it's something we haven't seen in a Scream movie, because Scream 1 wraps up, Scream 2 wraps up, as far as I know, right? I don't think there's a cliffhanger at the end of
we're pretty confident that
Scream 2.
Dead.
Okay. Scream 3 wraps up. Scream 4, I believe, wraps up.
Well, in Scream 3, you would need Sydney back because Roman is her brother and he's the killer. So
right.
It would make no sense for him to be there in this one.
Well, yeah. But each film, Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, wrap up.
Right.
They're their own separate stuff. So it's not like you have to go on and make any, other films. So to your point, we've never actually seen a Scream movie end on a cliffhanger. We've never had a Halloween. We've never had, where he's gone, or, whatever the case is, we haven't had that. So whatever the cliffhanger is, pick your 5,721 cliffhangers, whatever it is, if it makes sense to the story and it's not just there for the hell of it, it might be interesting, because fans are expecting it to wrap up, right? Fans are expecting it to be nice and neat and tidy, because that's what Scream stories do. That's what Scream movies do. They have a beginning, a middle, and end. And all of a sudden it's like, the killer just, oh my God. And maybe we think that Jenna Ortega is dead. Maybe we think that Sam's dead or something, and the killer's just standing over, whatever, and blood on the knife, and he wipes the blood off the knife or something and goes up like this, cuts to black, and you're like, what the fuck? We've never seen this before in a Scream movie. And like I said, you're always going to get people going, I feel uncomfortable, but I just think it would be cool, I agree. Pretty cool stuff. Now, before we jump over to the Q&A, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts? Yes, you. what are your thoughts on Stu and this idea of bringing him back? Because
I think it diminishes the character. In fact, it diminishes the character. His death is one of the best deaths in the franchise, getting the TV slammed on his head like that. And electrocuted and whatnot. It diminishes the character. It really does. I mean, look, it's a movie. It's a fictional world. Obviously, we know anything. We know anybody can come back at any point in time. Just ask Jamie Lee Curtis.
That's true, and we know that Wes was thinking about bringing him back in part 3, and he didn't do that. So
and he didn't do it. And I think I think it was follow Wes's intuition on why he didn't do it. And just go with that. Never question the master. That's what I say.
I am in agreement with you. It's. If they do bring him back and he is the big reveal, maybe that's the cliffhanger, right? Maybe that's the cliffhanger that leads us into, 7, who knows? But if they do bring him back, it's gotta make sense. They better connect all those fucking dots, because I think, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but knowing the world of fandom like we do, being on this channel and talking about movies all the time. And it's not that we're immune to this, at all. I mean, we're part of fandom too, but I can't help but feel that I think most people want Stu to come back because it's nostalgic for them, right? It's Matthew Lillard. Bring him, Stu. Oh my God, Stu. And I'm not saying everybody, but my first thought is, okay, why? And does it make sense, or is it just cool? Just, oh, Stu's back. Oh, cool. Oh, it's one of those, oh, sure. Okay. But after that's died away, oh, and you've calmed down and you're watching the movie, does it make sense? What the fuck's he doing back? Wouldn't somebody have known he was alive? He would have been taken to the hospital. It would have been on the news. I mean, and then I know people are like, oh, he was put into a witness protection program because, what? Okay, I guess we could write whatever we want to have it make sense, but listen, if they can write something that is like, and I'm like, holy fuck, and it addresses a big gigantic tube television being dropped on his head and how he survived, and and the electricity and how nobody knew that he was alive, or I would like to know how Wes was planning on bringing him back in 3. Like, what was the justification for that, or was it an idea that Wes just thought, what, this doesn't make any sense, and that's why he decided This is not where he wants to go with Scream. Scream is not a supernatural film where your killers are going to have these like superpowers that are going to survive where everyone else would die. Exactly.
I think that's part of the reason why Wes opted not to do that, because that's not the makeup of this franchise. That's not what this franchise is about. Right.
And people have often, said to me too, I don't like the idea, because, I've talked about this on the channel before. I don't like the idea of somebody pulling the strings. But then I've heard those same people say, what if Stu was pulling the strings? And I'm like, okay, so it's just Stu, right? I mean, that's what it's really about, is that it's just, you're excited to see Stu back. And I get it. Well, technically we did. He had the tooth. We did. I get it. I understand it. But if we look beyond our emotional nostalgic attachment, does it make sense narratively? Would we gain anything by it? I mean, if he was still alive, like if he was genuinely like we knew he was alive, I'd be like, yeah, bring him back. That's a missed opportunity. Unless they bring him back in the same way they brought Billy back, maybe Stu's got a daughter out there. I don't know. I'm kind of on the, I don't want him to come back. I don't want him to come back. Just continue pushing forward. But okay, cool. All right, well, should we jump over to the Q&A and see what?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let me go and get those super chats that came in. I appreciate that. And while I'm doing that, let me just say, so folks, if you're watching live, or I guess if you're watching after the fact, because I think you have to wait till we're done, comment below and let Tony and I know your thoughts on the teaser trailer to Scream 6, where you wanted to go, all the things that Tony and I talked about today, all the ideas that Tony had, all the ideas that I had, how we were conversing back and forth on our fucking ideas and how, give us our thoughts below. Let us know your thoughts. Do you agree? agree with us? Do you not agree with us? Do you kind of agree with us, but want to add your own 2 cents? Let Tony and I know in the comments section below. We would love to know. So let's go over to the...
And don't forget to leave a comment and complain about how we're not talking about Halloween again for the 900 millionth time.
That's right. We love you guys. We do. Yeah. It's all love. Okay.
Sometimes.
Well, it depends if it's a troll. Yeah. Matthew Farisi. Oh, I got that one. The $1.99. Josh McKenna sends in a very generous super chat of $19.99. Thank you, buddy. And says, a little off topic, but have either of you been creeped out by someone? I was staying at a hotel once, and I ran into some sketchy individuals. I told the front desk, and my intuition was correct. I have pretty good intuitions. Well, what your intuition was correct. You left the most important part of that story out. Who were they? Were they like, how bad were they? Have I ran into some creepy? I think we all have. I mean, I've never had a situation where I've had it confirmed for me, but I've been walking downtown by myself, gotten a bad feeling about somebody, kind of over there, or I crossed the street, whatever the case is, right? We've all kind of had that kind of thing, but I can't think of anything specific about running into somebody sketchy that I had like a confrontation with or something, like in public out of the blue. Have you had that, Tony?
Nothing to where, no, like nothing where it was like somebody creeped me out, or made me feel uneasy, or the situation made me feel, I'm trying to think. I've never really, I don't like going out in public because I hate fucking people. So that right there, that eliminates that right there. But I'm trying to think, like, have I ever been somewhere, visiting somewhere, gone somewhere or whatever? I mean, because most of the time when I do go out to places, if I'm going out, I'm usually like in small town vibes or out in the country or, doing something like that. But I haven't been into the city of Atlanta probably now for at least fucking pre-COVID. So that's what, 2 years ago in the city. Yeah, I've gone to the outskirts of the city for houses that I photographed for real estate agents. But yeah, I have not walked around the city of Atlanta since pre-COVID. But yeah, no, man, I can't think of if I ever been. I can't. But see, I will say this with regards to that question. I don't mean this in a sexist way, but I think that situation is different for guys than it would be for girls, because I think if you were to ask that, if you were to ask that question to a girl, they'd list off. We'd be here for an hour of many scenarios 100%. That they've been in. Yep. Because and again, I'm not saying that it's not like a sexist thing. I think everyone, I would like to think that every woman that's watching this right now would agree with you and totally get what you're saying. Right. That there's situations where it's very different. Be it that they've been catcalled, or be it that, maybe there's just a creepy guy that maybe sits next to them on a subway. Excellent point. That's an excellent point. So I think when it comes to guys, I do pay attention to my situation even more so now, because we live in a very, very weird world right now where the violence is just on a uprising. So I'm always alert and watching my six and whatever. But just I'm more attentive to the situation that I'm in, and I'm aware of my surroundings. I think for a girl, it's 100 times different, because like you said, I mean, it doesn't take much for a guy. I was telling this story, perfect example. And I'm not even, when I say this dude was staring hard, I almost was going to say something. I told this, I was telling this to Chrissy the other day on the phone. I was at Starbucks, and this young girl walked in, and she looked like she had just come from the gym. And like, I was laughing because I'm like, Jesus, man, did the 80s come back? Because she was wearing black legging pants with high tops and socks, like above, like girls used to wear high top sneakers, like girls used to wear, like in the 80s.
Leg warmers, kind of.
Yeah. Well, not like leg warmers; they were socks, so they were punched down. Okay, right. And then she had like this baggy shirt on that was coming off on her shoulders. It's coming back. The 80s are coming back. Right, and then she had a sports bra on, and she was, she's probably like early 20s kid. Like what I'm saying, and she was cute, but the funny thing was, like, there's this dude who, like, I swear, first of all, he was shaped like an Oompa Loompa. And he's literally, I mean, I'm not kidding you, dude. He is staring at this girl. I mean, like, his eyes, I mean, I'm looking at him.
Well, look, when you look like an Oompa Loompa, I mean, staring is probably all you can do.
It got to a point where I was like literally looking at my phone at the clock to see like, how long is this dude just going to stare? Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like he was hiding it.
Right.
He was literally, he was making it so obvious to a point where I finally was going to be like, bro, you might want to change the direction where you're looking because you're getting a little bit creepy here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she caught on to it because she was standing in line ready to order her drink. But that's one scenario where I would say, like, if she did notice it, she probably would be creeped the fuck out because he was just staring hard at her.
That's an excellent point. An excellent point. Static sends in $10. Thank you, Static, and says, saw Phantom Menace first time ever last night. Oh, that's cool. Anakin was a normal, enthusiastic kid. Scary because it means any of us could become Vader. This is Andy Harding joining Dark Side. He is like Hitler as child. Andy Harding? Excuse me, Andy Hardy? Who's Andy Hardy?
No idea.
Static, I really appreciate your super chat, buddy, but I'm not quite sure what you mean at the end there. But listen, you watched The Phantom Menace for the first time yesterday or last night. That's really cool. That's awesome. Hopefully you enjoyed it. That's really cool. Taylor Paulson sends in a very generous super chat of $20. Thanks, buddy. Says, you guys rock just like AC/DC. Yes! And Motley Crue. I'm a drummer. Have either of you had a chance to play on a drum set? AC/DC is also my favorite band, Dave. Very cool. And Tony, and Dave and Tony, and my band, and let me try that again. AC/DC is also my favorite band, Dave and Tony. Is also my favorite band, Dave, and Tony, my band, and I do whole Motley Crue tribute set. That's really cool.
Nice.
Rock on, dude. Yes, rock on. Fucking right. That's
do you
cool.
have a Spotify where I could, because I there are several bands that do Motley Crue tribute and that are really fucking good. Some of the singers now even sound better than Vince. Poor Vince, that guy.
Yeah.
Time to retire, buddy. Time to retire, dude. Yeah, because I'd like to hear it. If you guys do have like a Spotify, I'd love to check it out and listen to the tracks that you guys do and the songs that you guys cover. And if you don't, you should get one. And I'm going to request Same Old Situation. It's cool. It's a song that comes in handy from time to time in my life. I can't say I've played the drums. I've attempted to play the drums. Oh, yeah, that's right. He asked about the...
In music class, in grade 7, or in 7th grade, as how you guys say it in the States. We say the grade first, and then in the States, I find that you guys put the number first. It's so weird how that is. But anyway, was it 7 or 8? I think it was 7. I played the drums in my music class. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. And I remember that I broke the bass pedal and the music teacher was really upset and we got into a big fight in the classroom over it. And she made me pay for it. She was ridiculous. I didn't like her. Her name was Mrs. Green. I think she's dead now. Anyway, Tony, have you ever played the drums?
No, I can play the piano. I'm not great.
That's cool. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
I got a fucking Beethoven right here.
Yeah, that's how I won Chrissy over back when we were kids. I played the piano for her. No, I did play the piano for her.
Unchained Melody
that's
by the Righteous Brothers.
That's dude. That's so creepy that you. No. I swear to God, and I wish she was here to back me up on this. To the very first movie our first date that we was Ghost. That was the very first movie. So it's funny you say because that was
that goes back. That's 1990.
Yeah, I know. That was the theme. That was the love theme song in and I think I did play Unchained Melody for her on the piano. I played a lot of songs for her on the piano, but no, I mean I'm okay. Like yeah. I know the scales, I know the notes and stuff. Like I have a couple of keyboard. Well, you've seen me mess around on the keyboard. I play the Halloween theme and stuff like that. Or when I'm doing a mix, like a DJ mix, I might play the melody of like I did one a month ago or maybe it might even be 2 months ago now.
Yep.
I did the Usher theme and I was playing the chords to Usher's theme. Yeah. And whatnot. I've done that and I've shared, clips of that. I'm just not like, I'm not Mozart or anything like that. My skills are more in the DJing. That's where I focused in more on that.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be cool. I've always wanted to learn the drums, just to play the drums, but just one of those things that I never got around to doing.
Yeah, I get it. Out of all the instruments, I don't really consider a piano an instrument, but out of all the things I wish I could play, I wish it was the piano. Because you can play anything on a piano. Very similar to kind of like a guitar. Like you can almost play anything on a guitar, almost anything. But I think a piano, man, oh God, I'd play like fucking everything on there. It'd be so cool.
That's so crazy. You said Unchained, and you did not know that story. So it's crazy. No, out of all the songs you could have named, you said Unchained Melody. I'm just like, bro, really? Did you just say that? Like, what the hell? We're locked in. That locked in, man. That's we're locked in sometimes.
Eddie Chase sends a $9.99. Thank you, Eddie, and says Scream 4 isn't perfect, but underrated, especially Jill. I wouldn't have hated had she won at the end. She is a final girl and the fame she wanted. She is final girl and the fame she wanted. Love Nev, but that would have been epic. So I see what you're saying. Tony's a bit more familiar with 4 than I am. I've seen 4, I think, twice in my life. But he says, yeah, Scream 4 isn't perfect, but underrated, especially Jill. I don't even know who Jill is. Is she the
that's the cousin?
No. She's the cousin. Okay. I wouldn't have hated had she won at the end. She's final girl. She is the final girl and the fame she wanted. Love Nev, but that would have been epic. What do you think of that? Do you think it would have been cool if Jill had won?
But again, Scream's never done that. You know what I mean?
Right.
They've never had the killer survive. They've always killed the killer off. So yeah. That would have been cool. It would have been cool. So, yeah.
Cool. Eddie Chase follows up with $4.99 and says, am I in the minority in thinking Scream 5 should have been a new Nightmare kind of film? Wonder if that was explored, they would have nailed it. I see what you're saying. So like everybody comes back and plays fictional versions of themselves. You know what? If there is a series where that makes sense, it would be Scream. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know if the Scream fan base would want that because the actual narrative is already a bit meta. I don't know. What do you think, Tony? Same? Yeah.
Yeah.
Amaducia sends in $5 and says, I agree with Dave about the whodunit aspect, but that aspect kind of makes Scream feel more like a mystery and not a horror film to me. Agree? Well, I think Scream is, to me anyway, Scream has, and this is not a knock against it. This is part of its DNA. This is what it is. It knows what it is and it does it very well. Scream has always been like, when we talk about horror, right? The like horror movies and scary horror movies, Scream to me has always been what would be considered like horror light. It's like an entry level kind of like it's a horror movie you might want to show somebody who says they're petrified of horror movies. And the reason is because horror has that whimsy, sort of self-aware, spoofy aspect to it. It kind of pokes fun at itself and the horror genre. So somebody who maybe they're just getting into horror, they're young, or maybe they're just, I don't want to watch horror movies. I never watch horror movies. They're scary. It's a good entry-level horror film. It's a good entry-level franchise, I think, because it is not all... it's not blood, guts, and gore and scary and lighting and mood and atmosphere and tension and suspense that's so thick you can fucking cut it with a butter knife. And or you can't cut it with a butter knife, I should say. So I think I get what you're saying. It's still considered a horror movie. I would still consider it a horror movie, but there's different tiers. You know what I mean? What do you think, Tony?
Agreed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Cody Snyder sends in $5. Thanks, Cody, and says, poor Cotton Weary. That guy was screwed over. Tragic.
Cotton.
From what I remember, yeah, I just didn't like how all of a sudden Sydney in Scream 3 had like a half brother or something, or a brother.
Cotton,
like, where did that come from?
Cotton got what I just said about Kirby. If it, it was such a waste of his character because he had his redemption, right, in Scream 2. He more or less becomes the hero. He saves Sydney. Sydney does the good deed at the end, and gives like, if you want to talk to Cotton, he's the hero, and has that nice moment between the two of them, and then he's just wasted and killed in the beginning of the movie. I was just like, really, like, whatever. Like, that was the beginning of the end of Scream 3 for me. Thankfully I had a good date that night, but no, really, it was just like, as soon I just remember that scene, I hate wasting a character, man. Like, and if they do that with Kirby in this movie, I'm gonna hate it. I don't mind killing the character off, but it's like, if you're gonna go as far as to bring the character back after most people thought Kirby had died in Scream 4, it's just wasting the character. Let it flesh out a little bit, bring her in for maybe the 7th, and then kill her off. It's like Rachel. Fucking Rachel. Right.
Well, Rachel. Yeah, that's
such a waste.
Rachel's
character is the biggest waste of a character in horror movie history.
Rachel in Halloween 5 was a big tragedy.
Yeah.
One of the big tragedies. Captain Casual, I like that name. Captain Casual sends in $5 and says, "It's like I said about Scream, Resurrection." Scream Resurrection?
Scream Resurrection.
I know most people didn't like it, but for me, I enjoyed it, and I never told myself, where's Sid? Scream Resurrection? Oh, I guess he's talking about Scream 5. Okay. I guess I get what you're saying. Yeah, and we were talking about how he's basically agreeing with us. I think that they did such a good job with the characters and in 5, which they did, that not once were we ever sort of missing Sydney, at that point. And when she came in, it's not like for me, I've often said, speaking about Halloween, I've often said that, I'm in the camp that I didn't like Halloween Ends at all. But I've been fair and I've been honest with my feelings. And I've often said that what I do like about Ends is actually the Corey story. I just think that story's in the wrong movie.
Way wrong movie.
And I've often said that, Halloween Ends was actually pretty good, ironically, until Michael Myers showed up.
Right. Michael Myers is the worst part of his own movie.
Yeah. And of course I have lots of videos on my channel where I dive deep into why I feel that way. I can explain why I feel that way. But with Sydney, the good thing about Sydney coming back in 5 is that it didn't detract. So I never felt that once Sydney showed up, what the fuck's she doing here? I didn't feel that. And that's good. I didn't feel that it necessarily, now again, I'm not a hardcore Scream fan, so maybe it did for some. I didn't necessarily feel that it elevated it to like another level where I'm like, oh my God, woo. But I didn't feel that it detracted. So it was just more of like, oh, there she is. There she is. And she's going to come, and now she plays sort of a complimentary role. But yeah, no, I think we're both kind of in agreement with what you're saying there. Yeah, no, I didn't miss her at all because they did such a good job with the other
characters. I said it tonight. I was more intrigued with Jenna Ortega's and Samantha and the other characters in the movie. They had done that really well, that every time Nev was there, I'm like, I love you, Nev. I think you're a great character. I love what you've done with the franchise, but you're kind of ruining the movie right now because I want to get back to the, really. Because I
didn't feel that she was ruining the movie.
Not ruining. Okay, that might be harsh words, but I was so hooked on these new characters that I'm like,
right.
Okay, all right. It's like,
I get
for me
to
say that because she's my favorite final girl. It's like,
yep.
Yeah.
I understand. Captain Casual follows up with $10. Thank you, Captain. And says, you can tell different stories with Ghostface. Like instead of a killer who's a fan of horror films, how about a fanatic of real life serial killers? That's me. I can see the franchise without Nev.
You're a real life serial killer? That's how I thought first. I was
no,
like, whoa.
I think he's just saying, but that's me. Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's because each film, even though we are seeing a through line with all 5 films, and I'm sure we'll get that through line continuing into the 6th. Like each film is canon in each of their films, but it doesn't carry over the same story because we're not following the same antagonist, and in a lot of cases we're not following the same protagonist. I mean, we do have, you know, like your main 4, which obviously, or your main 3, I guess, or yeah, I guess it was 4 at the beginning, and now, you know, 2 of them are dead in terms of Dewey and Randy, but they are different stories, right? And I think that does, and because they're whodunits, and it's always fun to try and figure out who's doing it. I think it has ironically, the longevity with the Scream franchise, and I say may because, you know, all it takes is one bad movie and it's like, oh, here we go.
That's it. Yep.
And that's it. But there may be a little bit of wiggle room that you have with the Scream franchise that you don't necessarily have with Halloween Friday or Elm Street, because of the structure of the storytelling. So yeah, no, I think we're in agreement with that. Ethan Self sends in $4.99 and says, do you guys ever get nostalgic over TV shows from your teen and early adulthood era, like Smallville, Dawson's Creek, Friends, etc.? Yeah,
well, Smallville for Dave and I was more in our 20s when that came out. That's 2001. But yes, to stuff that Dave and I grew up with in the 80s and early 90s. In fact, like the TGIF shows like Full House, Family Matters, Alf. Come on. Growing Pains. Obviously, everyone knows I'm a big Cheers fan. I still watch Cheers to this day. I finally, you know, because Dave talking about it and my grandmother being a big fan of the show growing up, I got into watching Golden Girls. Fucking love that show.
Golden Girls is amazing.
Yeah, you know, so I kind of, you know, I wasn't into it as a kid, but as an adult, I appreciate the humor. Love the show. But yes, I do get very... when I watch, especially more so, I will say when I watch a show from the 80s, I get the feels. I get the nostalgia feels. I you know, not maybe when I watch movies like, or not movies, shows like Home Improvement, especially like the early seasons of Home Improvement. Yeah. And the reason why
kids are like so little.
Because we were about the same age as those kids when they around close.
Similar. I think we were a couple of years older, but
around Brad's age. Yes. I think we might have been. Yeah. Because I think we're the same age as that kid.
Yeah.
So it was very relatable. You know, and the things that the kids were doing, we were doing the same shit. So when I see some of that stuff and I see the storytelling on Home Improvement, especially, you know, whatever the kids are doing and whatever mischief they're getting into, totally relatable, totally hit the feels. 90210, it just reminds me, I just think of my sister and her friends and, you know, every Tuesday or Wednesday night, whenever that show was on, I'm talking like in its beginning days, like when it, people still don't understand how insanely popular that show was when it first came. Like
it was huge.
Luke Perry was Justin Bieber of the early 90s. I mean, he was just, he was, my sister had Luke Perry, Jason Priestley all over her walls. But I don't feel the same nostalgia for 90210 when I see it. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. You know, like, but like some of the other shows you and I just listed here, Roseanne, another one.
And listen, let's put the aside for a moment, and just look at it as a show. The Cosby Show was great.
The Cosby, yes.
Cosby Show was great. It's a great fucking show.
Condoning what the dude did, but no, you know,
but the show was great. It was a great show. Yeah, no, my shows in the 80s, I mean, you know, I'm a huge fan. This is a 70s, 80s show, but I'm a huge fan of Three's Company.
I just started watching that for the first time.
Love Three's Company. I mean,
when I say for the first time, meaning I've seen the show.
Of course.
But now I'm actually, because it's on Pluto,
right?
And it's for free on Pluto. I'm doing that. I'm watching that show for the first time from start to finish, and Family Ties, and they're both fucking great shows.
Fucking great. They're great. Yeah, Family Tie. Yeah, I'm for me as a kid, it was Alf. It was Three's Company.
Three's Company is awesome, dude.
Fucking great.
Ritter's fucking physical comedy. Are you kidding me?
It's so good, and it's so like a lot of these shows are dated out, but Three's Company to me is like a comfort show. There's something about it if I'm feeling sick or I'm feeling a little down or I'm feeling depressed or whatever the case is.
You gotta hit the come on, knock on our door.
Yeah, I throw on Three's Company and it's so silly. It's a farce show. It's Seinfeld before Seinfeld. Do you know what I mean?
I just started watching Seinfeld for the first time. I'm because it's on Netflix, so I'm now watching Seinfeld for I'm in the middle. I'm like halfway through it.
Seinfeld's great.
Man, this show is fucking hilarious.
It's so good. It's
so good. It is so well. I don't know why. I mean, I'm hearing the stories, but I don't know why this show took as long as it did to gain the success that it did.
Yes.
That it was not a hit out the gate. It really not at all. Not even remote.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
And just such
it wasn't a hit till like the third or fourth season.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, that show is just and for me, I don't know if it's the same for you or anyone else who watched Seinfeld as when it first aired or whatever. So Jerry's humor is good. It's very sarcastic. I dig the sarcasm. It's very relatable because I think a lot. But to me, it's the three surrounding him.
Oh yeah, and
that's my opinion.
100%. And you could even go, it's George and Kramer.
Kramer,
you could, and it's no disrespect to Elaine or Jerry, but it's just the dynamic of the characters.
Those two characters you need, and they're look. I know Michael Richards. I know he had some controversial things that he said. You cannot take away his Kramer character and what he did.
Yes, and what's great about Seinfeld too is that, funny enough, it's not dated, and the reason I mean it's dated in the sense of it looks like a 90s show, but it's because of the storytelling. They don't rely on 90s pop culture or current events or it's all, and I think this largely comes from Jerry's stand-up, because early on with Seinfeld, what Seinfeld was supposed to be, and it was this way actually for a large majority of the show, it was about how a comedian gets his material. And Jerry Seinfeld is an observational comedian, and his observations are about life and people and interactions and everyday shit that stands the test of time, whether you're in the 80s, the 90s, or today. It's the same stuff that we all find funny or that we deal with our families or people or friends or situations or bosses or work or girlfriends and boyfriends, and so Seinfeld was all about that. So every episode you watch, the scenarios are still relevant. They're still current.
Very relevant.
Very relevant and current. And that's why it's still fucking great today. I'll watch it regularly. It's still, some of the scenarios I'm like, fuck, it's still current. And that was deliberate. They didn't want to date the show by having it, by playing into 90s things or things that were current or things that people were going through in the 90s. No, it's just regular shit, and it's so good. Oh yeah, I could not agree more. Love that shit. Frank earlier in the chat was like, hey Dave, why don't you tell them about the Alf Christmas special? That goes back to a episode I was on the Slaughtered Lamb with, where I was talking about how the Alf Christmas special, it's actually quite dark, but it's good. It's really good, and it's moving, and Alf learns a lesson, but it's about I can't tell you. It's right now, it's for free on YouTube. If you're a big fan of Alf and you've never seen the Christmas special, YouTube Alf Christmas special. It's dark and it's heavy. It's like the subject matter is heavy, but there's a real good message in it. So just
I didn't get into Alf, but you know what show I got into that actually bookend with Alf? It played side by side with Alf. Was
the Hogan Family?
No. Oh. Well, maybe for you it did. For me, in Connecticut where I was growing up, the show that played side by side with Alf on our network was Small Wonder. And I actually really liked that show.
Wonder. Is that the one with the girl robot?
The robot, yes.
I remember that. No, I think for me it was the Hogan Family that came on next. For me, well, no, I think it would have been the same. I guess it might have. And for me, I think Alf was on Mondays at 8 or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Fucking love that show. Yeah. So many good stuff.
I know there's good, television, unfortunately, is never going to be like it was when we grew up, with the 3 major networks, and then the UPN channel. So like 4 networks and 5 when Fox, can't forget Married with Children. Are you kidding me? Like in when The Simpsons first came out, now that show can just, I'm like, whatever. But yeah, Married with Children, and like all the jokes about Fox, you needed all these different antennas in your house. Assume the Fox position, to get because you didn't know if you could get the network or the channel or not, because it was such a small channel. But now, because the way everything's streaming and, you got, these 10 episode seasons that they're doing with television shows, it's not, they don't make it the same anymore. And people have moved away from TV. What TV is now is streaming. That's what TV is. Right. So it's just different. I mean, cable still exists, of course, and it exists obviously in high enough numbers to warrant, regular TV still being out there. But yeah, no, it is moving away. I'm sure you know this, but if you don't, you will now. But this is cool, and it's so weird. So in the opening of Married, I don't know if it's in every single opening, because obviously they went like 10 or 11 seasons, but certainly in the first couple of seasons, the opening credits of Married with Children, there's a shot of the family truckster from Vacation. Vacation, yes.
It's the exact scene.
It's literally the same shot.
It's the same shot. Like, we're not making this up.
The Griswolds are part of the Bundy universe.
Like, I'm telling you, and I think, like, the way it looks, I think they're, like, Married with Children is trying to suggest that that's the Bundy family. Which is so weird. And, guys, we're not making this up. In the opening credits of Married with Children, if you're familiar with National Lampoon's Vacation from 1983, the first one, the one where they go to Wally World.
When they're leaving Chicago.
When they're leaving Chicago, they're in the fucking horrible looking family truckster. There's this aerial shot that would have been shot by from a helicopter for sure, and you can see the skyline in the background. I don't know if Holiday Road.
It's 2 shots. It's them coming on the ramp and then the shot of them driving off on the highway.
I don't know if Holiday Road is playing or not. I can't quite remember, but it's there, and you can see it, and that's Vacation. Then some years later, like in the later 80s, or I guess it was like, was it 87 or 88 when Married with Children began? Around there, close. The opening credits, now Married with Children, the show is supposed to take place in Chicago. And the opening credits, you see, it's not a reshoot. It is literally lifted from the movie and placed in the opening credits of Married with Children. I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they got away with that. Were they allowed to do that? Did they get permission to do that? I don't know, but it is there.
I think the Griswolds are part of the Bundy universe.
Maybe.
They were neighbors.
Maybe. And I had a guy who was like, well, no, it's not the same. No, it is the same. It's the same thing.
Same shot. It is literally the same shot.
It's literally the same. It's not somebody recreate. It doesn't just look like, no, it is literally the same shot. Yeah. It's hilarious. But anyway, let's move on here. We got to get going. So 80s Tears sends in $5, says, Tourist Trap is an amazing movie. It gives Texas Chainsaw a run for its money. And The Void is also very good. Both movies I highly recommend. Tourist Trap was actually produced by Erwin Yablans, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I've seen that recently. It's like an 80s movie?
Yeah, early 80s film. I haven't seen it in years, but maybe that's one we revisit.
Doesn't that have to do with some like mannequins or some shit?
There's some kind of house, I think.
House, right? With mannequins or some shit.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it.
It's been so long, and I'm old and I'm forgetting shit now.
That's all right. That's all right. But yeah, 2 very good. Yep, I agree.
Someone said the A-Team. Yes, I did. I wasn't a big A-Team fan. I was a massive Airwolf fan, like a huge Airwolf fan.
I love Knight Rider and Dukes of Hazzard.
And I was just about to say, and Knight Rider, and I don't know why. I know they're doing all these Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. I don't know why no one has not thought to do an Airwolf, Knight Rider, Street Hawk, and even A-Team Cinematic Universe. That'd be cool. It's like, it's just sitting there. No one's doing anything. Like, are you kidding me? Airwolf today with the technology today and shit that they can do. Come on.
It's true. Yeah. Sebastian sends in $4.99 and says, hey, Dave and Tony, appreciate y'all keeping me away from my depressing life. Oh, well, that's not good, dude. We're sorry to hear that. stay strong, and surround yourself with people that can lift you up. What were your thoughts on Evil Dead trailer, and are you going to see Megan? I probably won't see Megan in the theater. I'll wait for that to come to streaming, but okay. I was going to maybe we'll do a show on Evil Dead. I'm not sure, but I got to.
There was a trailer.
There's a trailer. There's a trailer for Evil Dead Rise. It's a new movie coming out. And listen,
is Bruce Campbell in it?
No, but let me just say this. I'm not a huge Evil Dead fan. Now, when I say that, that's not me saying I don't like Evil Dead. I do like Evil Dead. I like it fine, but I'm not like crazy about Evil Dead like a lot of people are. But this trailer looks fucking bonkers fun. This trailer is fantastic. And I think the trailer showed way too much, but it looks really cool. Maybe that's something we'll talk about. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I didn't even know, to be honest with you. I had no freaking clue till you just mentioned it.
It's true.
I am so far out of touch with everything.
All right. Now, before we go, let's just take like one or two non-super chat ones, because I know people, we've been, obviously there's a lot of super chat ones that came in. Let me just get a non-super chat one. Yeah, go ahead.
General Shepherd at Tony Michael and at Dave McRae. Do you think aliens or other beings have visited our planet? Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I will say that obviously, I don't know because I'm not in the know, but do I think they have? I'm going to say yes.
There you go. I don't know. I do believe that there are other, obviously with the amount of galaxies and universes there are out there, it's endless. We're not alone. We're not the only life form out there. No way. I don't know if other life forms, other places, other planets have built technology that we don't even know what the fuck, that we might not even discover for millions of years from now. I don't know. It's possible. It's definitely a fun discussion. I love getting into these topics because my brother's really into that stuff. He loves it. I love space. I dig space. I like, looking up at the skies and stuff like that. And just, what else is out there and shit like that. I love thinking about that shit. My brother's very knee deep into it more than I am.
Right.
And I definitely believe that we're not alone. Do I think that we've had it like I don't know. Sometimes part of me wants to think yes. Sometimes I'm like, maybe not. Who knows?
Did you see that photo taken by the James Webb telescope? That big new telescope that's out there in space now.
Which photo? I've seen. There's been a few photos.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the photo of all the galaxies.
Oh yeah.
This is what's crazy. This is what is so mind blowing.
We look like our galaxy looks like a speck of dust.
Get this. This is what is so mind fucking blowing about that photo, and that people. And this is what is so. It's so like I've been going around to people going, no, you don't understand. You don't understand, because people will look at that and go, wow, that's cool. And it's like, no, you don't understand. So first of all, that picture shows like thousands of galaxies, right?
Infinite. It's infinite.
Right. And but get this. Okay. First of all, that photo is taken because it takes so long for light to get to Earth, right? That photo is actually something like that light, like what we're seeing there, how they look, is 13, and this is just the first part that's crazy, something like 13 billion years ago.
Right.
13. So right now, half those galaxies could be gone. They could be completely different shapes. They could have merged. We're just seeing what it looks like.
And we could technically be gone, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
Right. But get this.
Really, when you get into the layers of it,
fucking
it gets
crazy.
Yeah,
and get this. And then I read that if you take a grain of sand, hold it out at arm's length up to the sky, that grain of sand and that's the area that of space that photo comes from.
Yep.
So in that grain of sand held up to the sky in that little speck, all of that exists.
It's nuts.
So if all of that exists in a grain of fucking sand of you, what the fuck is, we can't even comprehend it. And people are like, oh, that's cool. No, you don't understand. You don't understand. Yeah. It is too big. It's too big to even comprehend what that means. All of that, thousands of galaxies on a grain of, are you insane? Holy fuck! It's nuts.
You've seen me share video clips, and they're short clips. They're short 13-second, 14-second time lapse. I love shooting the Milky Way,
it's great
or
stuff.
the Andromeda galaxies, and able to shoot them into time lapses and share them for you guys. I mean, they take forever to fucking do. Even that 14-second Milky Way one that I did recently here, that shit took me like 9 hours to fucking do. For 14 seconds, it's nuts.
That's it.
I love doing that shit. I love photographing that shit. And then, like, when I see the final results and I'm looking at this stuff, I'm just like, man, what is in all of that? Like, what's going on in there that I don't know? You know what I mean?
And people have to understand too that the photographs we get are that are released by
and how
NASA.
long ago was the light coming? You know what I mean? Like that shit too, right?
Right. Well, and what's his face in here? I forget now where it went here. Somebody said that, Don Wilk 91 says most of the light we see in the stars are from thousands of years ago.
1,000 years ago,
Most of the light we see from the stars are from millions of years ago. I mean, most of the light we see from the stars, I mean, there's a lot of those stars that might not even be there.
Hitting us, right?
The actual star is probably not even there. But when they release images, whether it's from Hubble or whether it's from the James Webb telescope, they will release images, these beautiful looking images, and they're in color. Well, that's not actually what the actual image looks like when it's taken from the telescope, because what NASA's done is because I think I don't pretend to know all about this, but it's something about like, they are, because our eyes can't see UV rays or UV light or whatever it is, but what you're seeing is all this UV light or whatever, and they're sort of showing you what it would look like if we could see, like what it actually does. It's like all that color is there. It's just naked to the human eye because we don't possess the ability to be able to see it. And they are showing you what it, that's my understanding. I could be wrong on that. Frank put in an article here from the NASA site. It explains it all in there, but it's fucking unreal. Like to think
nuts.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Insane.
And think about it like this too. Our sun, which is a star, okay, its light hasn't even hit or may have. Our universe could be wherever our sun has been seen by other planets. Yeah. Our universe may be long gone for them. That's hitting them right now, but yet we're still here in the moment.
Right.
Right. That that's the trippy shit about this stuff that mind boggles me. It's straight out of a fucking Chris Nolan movie. You know what I mean?
It is. Really is. And our sun, I think they said our sun is like, what's our sun, like 4 billion years old or something, and they feel that based on that it's got like another 5 billion, like it's basically through half its life right now. And eventually our sun will die. Like our planet will die. I mean, obviously it's billions of years away.
Not gonna want to be here when that day comes.
No, well, yeah, no, bad. But it will happen. It will happen, and that's just natural. It happens everywhere, right? You know what I mean? Yep. But it's just crazy. Like I remember, like I read that, hold a grain of sand out at arm's length up to the sky, and that's the size of, you know, the area where that image comes from. And I'm just like, get the fuck. I can't even comprehend that. We are nothing. We are
Nothing.
And since we're nothing, that's a great way to end the show.
Absolutely. Us nothing fuckers.
We are nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, you are amazing. You know you're amazing. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. My name's Dave McRae. He's Tony Michael. Thank you to our amazing moderators, Frank Riker, Tap of the Shore, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, Cody Snyder, and Andrew Stevens. You guys are amazing. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you to all the super chat questions that came in. We really appreciate it very much. Thank you for you guys tuning in. Comment below and let Tony and I know your thoughts. Well, you can let us know your thoughts on anything we discuss here today, but let us know your thoughts on Scream 6, on the teaser trailer. Are you excited about it? Let us know your thoughts about all the things we discussed and add your own 2 cents into the comment section below. Get the discussion going. Tony, any last things you want to say?
I gotta pee.
He's got to pee. He's got to pee, ladies and gentlemen.
Little Forrest Gump.
He's got to pee. Tony and I will be back next Sunday night. Again, our shows are usually Monday nights, but next Sunday night, these 2 weeks here are Sunday night. So next Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be back. Alrighty, that'll do it for us. Take care. Cheers.